Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we are tackling a fundamental choice that literally every single one of us makes, whether we actually realize it or not. It's the ultimate showdown between keeping your money totally stagnant and completely under your own control versus plugging it into the vast, dynamic machinery of the global banking system. I mean, there are over 44,000 banks across the world right now, managing hundreds of trillions of dollars, and the underlying mechanics of how they actually multiply wealth are just absolutely fascinating to uncover. So I want you to picture this for a second. Imagine guarding all of your wealth yourself. You take every dollar you earn and you just stuff it under your mattress, or maybe you lock it in a heavy safe down in your basement. It feels incredibly secure, doesn't it? You know exactly where it is. But as we're going to see today, that feeling of complete physical control comes with a massive economic cost. Because while your money just sits there, perfectly safe in the dark, it is totally, fundamentally unproductive. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with from gold to fiat, then contrast home saving versus banking, explore the money multiplier effect, look at when the system breaks, and finally wrap up with the ultimate safety net.
All right, section 1, from gold to fiat.
You know, the story of banking doesn't actually begin with money as we know it today. Thousands of years ago, people just needed a safe place to store things that mattered: grain, goods, and eventually, really heavy physical gold. Walking around with a big bag of gold coins was exhausting, not to mention incredibly dangerous. So clever individuals started offering storage services. You leave your gold and they give you a paper receipt. Eventually, people realized that trading these lightweight, portable paper receipts was just way easier than moving the heavy metal around. And boom, that birthed paper money. Fast forward to 1971, and we see this massive shift. The US drops the gold standard entirely. Now, our money is fiat currency. It isn't a claim on physical gold in a vault anymore, it's backed purely by our collective belief in it.
Moving on to section 2, home saving versus banking. Today, banks have evolved into this massive ecosystem of specialized middlemen. You've got retail banks, that's probably where you have your checking account. But behind them are commercial banks, who are helping a local restaurant open a second location or a factory buy new machinery. Then you have investment banks handling giant corporate mergers. And sitting above the whole shebang is the central bank, overseeing the entire machine. Without these middlemen connecting the dots, our economy would be so small we'd practically still be in the Stone Age.
Which brings us to the core contrast of this explainer. On one hand, you have home saving. When you hold your money in cash at home, yes, it's secure, but it's stagnant. It is entirely unproductive and creates literally zero economic growth. But on the other hand, you have modern banking. At its core, a bank is simply a brilliant piece of infrastructure that connects two groups of people. It connects people who have money they aren't currently using with people who desperately need money to do something productive, like build a business, buy a home, or invent some new technology.
And there's a phrase that brilliantly illustrates our main focus today. A dollar that doesn't get spent is a dollar that practically doesn't exist. Economically speaking, if your money is just sitting in a safe in your basement, it is doing absolutely nothing for the world. But when you plug it into the banking system, that money is mobilized. A dollar that actually gets spent and circulated is worth vastly more to society than a dollar that is just saved and hidden away.
Which brings us to section 3, the money multiplier effect.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is that it completely shatters the biggest illusion in banking. When you deposit $1 million, you probably imagine the bank carrying it down to a vault and putting it in a little box with your name on it, right? Well, that is absolutely not what happens. Through a system called fractional reserve banking, the bank only keeps a tiny fraction, say 10%, in actual cash in reserve. The vast majority, the other 90%, gets lent out or invested immediately. Your account balance? It's really just a number in a database.
Let's actually walk through exactly how this works step by step. Step 1, you deposit $1,000 of your hard-earned money. Step 2, the bank holds on to just $100 of it and lends the remaining $900 out to someone who needs a loan to, let's say, buy a laptop. Step 3, that borrower buys the laptop and the electronics store owner takes that $900 and deposits it right into their own bank. Step 4, that second bank keeps 10%, $90, and lends out the remaining $810. And this cycle just repeats again and again and again.
$10,000. That is the beautiful, massive ripple effect of the banking system. Your initial single $1,000 deposit, which remember would have just sat uselessly in a vault or under your mattress, eventually ends up accounting for around $10,000 of actual economic activity. This is the money multiplier at work. It's funding local jobs, it's building city infrastructure, it's even pooling billions of dollars into vital cancer research. All of this global progress is funded by the massive pool of money from millions of people who chose to deposit their funds rather than hide them.
All right, Section 4. When the system breaks.
So this points to a really fundamental vulnerability in this entire system. What actually happens if everyone wants their money back today? Remember, the bank only has a tiny sliver of everyone's money in the vault. The whole system relies entirely on the mathematical probability that not everyone is going to ask for their cash on the exact same day.
The crucial point here is that when that mathematical probability fails, the results are catastrophic. And there are two main ways this happens. First, bank runs. This is when customers panic and all try to withdraw their money simultaneously. Because the cash physically isn't there, even a totally healthy bank can collapse, which is exactly what wiped out hundreds of banks during the Great Depression. Then you have bad loans. Banks are businesses. They need to make loans to make money. But if left unchecked, they start making risky loans. If too many borrowers default at once, the bank loses its money and collapses. And that was the trigger for the 2008 financial crisis. Plus, because banks are constantly borrowing from each other, a single collapse can trigger a terrifying global domino effect.
Which leads us perfectly to Section 5, the ultimate safety net. Because the system is so delicate and interconnected, society really had to build a safeguard. Enter the central bank, which is essentially a bank for other banks. Here in the US, that's the Federal Reserve. They act as a lender of last resort to prevent those domino effect bank runs we just talked about. But their absolute most important job is macroeconomic regulation, walking a very delicate tightrope known as the dual mandate. They have to balance keeping inflation low so the economy doesn't overheat and make life unaffordable, while simultaneously keeping employment high, ensuring businesses can access the capital they need to actually grow and hire workers.
So how do they actually do this? Well, they do it by pulling one massive lever: interest rates. If inflation is rising too fast, the central bank raises interest rates. This makes it more expensive for banks to borrow from each other, which means they give out fewer loans to the public, and that effectively slows the economy down. Conversely, if unemployment is rising, they drop the rates. Borrowing becomes cheap, banks lend out way more money, businesses expand, and the economy speeds up. They are constantly adjusting this style in the background of your day-to-day life, just keeping that money multiplier we talked about functioning safely.
And that brings us right back to you and the choice you make with your own wealth. We've seen how keeping your cash completely isolated under the mattress might feel safe, but it absolutely starves the economy of potential. When you participate in the banking system, your unused money is connected to ambitious projects, multiplying its impact tenfold, creating jobs, innovation, and progress, all while being regulated by that central safety net. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Now that you know the hidden mechanics of the money multiplier, will you choose to leave your money stagnant, or will you let it fuel global progress? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.